I'm not gonna brag and say that I called it, but I basically called it on the Blade situation. And I wish I was like on this topic hella sooner because not long after I made that first video about whether or not fans even care about Blade anymore because so much BS has happened that has delayed it over 5 years. I think it was like a week or two after that when we got the news between Armor Wars and Blade, they ended up indefinitely canceling out Blade. If you would I have liked to see it? Yes. That would have been nice to see Mahershala Ali reprise or portray Blade and serve as, I guess you can say, the second incarnation of that character, right? And very fitting too. But also, if we had gotten news that it would end up being the one canceled or delayed or whatever, I was like, no, I wouldn't really care. It wouldn't bother me. What do we know about the delay or anything that led up to it? So the backstory is Blade was supposed to be set up as a big movie for Marvel, not necessarily for Marvel and the MCU to change direction, just to open a whole new lane for it. And a lot of people were hoping that Blade would have served to open up particularly horror themed movies, like I guess legit horror movies, because technically Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was the first actual horror movie entry in the MCU, but we already know the mass majority of fans didn't care for it. Like I said, I personally liked it. Personally, I think Elizabeth Olsen's performance stole the show for me. A lot of people, I guess the whole break the fourth wall thing, I guess it got mixed reviews or reception. Personally, I loved it when I was not expecting that. So she had great moments, and she had some minor jump scare ish type moments, and personally, I don't do horror movies. I'm just gonna be honest. I can't do horror movies. They're not my thing. Never have been, especially if they're supernatural based. While I was a little iffy, I was like, well, this is still Marvel. They're not gonna make a total horror movie. Blade was supposed to be the entry point for that, to be like total horror movies. If you want to consider Midnight Suns, Ghost Rider, of course, Blade himself, or at least a lot of fans were hoping it was supposed to be an entry point to horror movies. And now we're hearing, of course, it is indefinitely delayed. Production's not going anywhere. Of course, it was just kind of the cherry on top due to the nonsense going on behind the scenes. From what I've learned, more than anything, the detail that stuck out to me was essentially the continuation of the feminist BS that's been plaguing Marvel just lately. I would say again, primarily since the end of Phase Three. While I haven't had that much of an issue with the woke slash feminism aspect of Disney Marvel on top of Star Wars, what really made Blade's situation bad was they was trying to make a Blade movie where Blade wasn't even going to be the main focus. They were trying to make it so that Blade was going to be like the fourth most important character in the movie. And to me, that's where it's like, okay, your priorities are out of whack. If you are trying to big up a side character, whether she's super popular amongst the fandom or not, from cartoons, comics, and whatever else, any other medium, and you want the spotlight to shine on them, then create a space for them. Because even when it came to say Echo, who was not very popular, and Ironheart, even though she's not necessarily crazy looked forward to and has a lot of hype, she's more new, so therefore she also does not have a crazy fan base, and you're still pumping money into those IPs so that they can blow up and play a bigger role in the MCU when it comes to Doctor Doom and whatever goes on past that. I don't know why you couldn't just do that. You're trying to take a Blade movie with a great actor that he's inheriting from another great actor who technically, if you ask most people or mega fans, would say he's the true reason that the MCU even exists. You know what I'm saying? Even if the concept wasn't as built out really at all, we probably wouldn't have the MCU if Blade hadn't started things all the way back then to show that people actually care about this type of content. That there's a fan base that likes this nerdy action, superhero, anti-hero type stuff. There's no reason why you should take an IP with that type of history and popularity. We already know the reaction to Wesley Snipes when he popped up in Deadpool. I almost jumped out my freaking seat. You have a top-notch actor. Why would you waste that talent and the reach of that IP by saying the story is going to be comprised by placing two or three other mainly female characters above him, and they're going to push that story where they're going to be important, but Blade himself is going to be a backseat character. Think of it like this, and I've never heard anyone call this out. I'm honestly surprised I haven't heard anyone call this out, and I didn't have an issue with it. If you check out the Marvels and that scene where they're all teleporting all over the place because all their powers are intertwined, and they're jumping between Miss Marvel's house, the space station that Nick was on, Nick Fury, the space station that he was on, and the is it a Atari? Whatever the alien people are. You know what I'm saying? They're all shifting places. And when Miss Marvel had landed on the space station and fighting against whoever those aliens were, I forget their name. You know, when they're going up against those guys and she's on the space station with Nick and they end up working together, there was a quick scene where he was trying to like shoot down one of the aliens, but it didn't work. He ended up having to back away and she slid in literally and saved the day by taking out that enemy. I'm surprised I haven't heard anyone attempt to frame that as a feminist thing because there's no reason a preteen girl, if not a teen girl, should have had to save Nick Fury. You know what I'm saying? And him running away and she covered seems very uncharacteristic. Well, I don't have an issue with it. Like I said, I thought the Marvels was the funnest Marvel movie we had in a while. That moment did stick out to me. It just came across as uncharacteristic of Nick Fury, at least as we knew him. Take that and stretch that to literally an entire movie. That's basically what they were trying to do with Blade. It's a few different things. One, what is this obsession with wanting to manhandle and hijack existing IPs centered on males, which I know is the whole thing you're trying to make us uncomfortable and piss us off, but you're trying to take advantage of IPs that already exist and putting the main character in the back seat, probably all the way in the back of the van, to give spotlight to characters that we most likely don't know anything about or at least don't care nearly as much under their banner instead of giving said characters their own banner. Even if you made a series, another Disney Plus series that hopefully wouldn't stink, you could have at least done that to shed some light and give them their own focus and then connected it directly with the Blade movie somehow so that, yeah, Marshall Ali will be the main character. But then it's like, oh, wow, if you watched the series before Blade, this second deuteragonist or whatever the third version of it, that word is, tritagonist, you know, you could play up tension to that character or those characters because they did something prior to the timeline that relates directly to the story. So you'll pay attention to them all equally. You could have at least done that. What is with this obsession with trying to manhandle the IPs that already have a solid following, which means you're intentionally trying to antagonize that following? And also, what is with Marvel? They continue to hire, and well, Disney, I guess, en masse, is my bigger issue. What is their obsession with wanting to hire these people who have these agendas and won't stick to not the status quo, change some things up, you know what I'm saying? But wanting to change the IPs so drastically just to make a political message. Marvel movies are not inherently meant for political statements. They always included it. DC has too. Freaking I can never remember, but you know, Static Shock, Icon, Hardware, those characters from Dwayne McDuffie's old comic book company, they were meant specifically for that. And even that, they were superheroes. They had to deal with human superhero stuff as much as the racial stuff. You know what I mean? At least balance it out. Y'all are trying to completely make, you know, a brand that is at least created space for political topics, but was dominantly and is dominantly superhero, anti-hero, villain, whatever type stuff, wherever you are on the spectrum. You know, you're not prioritizing that. You're prioritizing your own personal like goal, and it's annoying. I think we will eventually get an MCU Blade movie, or at the very least another Blade movie, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Especially now that Marshall Ali has agreed to play Martian Manhunter in James Gunn's new DCU. I don't know if they're keeping the DCEU or just changed it to DCU. He's going to be doing that, so I'm pretty sure he's not going to even have the time to make another. Well, depending on how much attention they pay him in, like, I don't know if they're going to do a Justice League movie and introduce him. That's a topic for another day. We can talk about that later. But yeah, I think it's safe to say we're not going to get anytime soon because now not only have they rubbed him the wrong way when it comes to the writing, they scrapped it multiple times, restarted multiple times, brought in multiple writers, multiple directors, you know, all the personnel changes. Your priorities are out of whack when it comes to which characters to prioritize. And now you're out of a top-notch actor that was the centerpiece of like the hype around this. Who else are you going to bring in? Not to say there won't be other options, but Marshall Ali, how do you fumble that, man? Because you want to put your weird just agenda ahead of making the movie awesome. Are y'all more prioritized with hiring directors and writers or whatever who have their own agendas to push because you're trying to satiate a certain niched demographic that may or may not consume your content at all? Are you trying to create a certain type of balance amongst the personnel you bring on, males, females, heteronormative, queer, what have you? Like, are you trying to prioritize that also for social reasons? Are you prioritizing business and just taking different very extreme risks to make an IP feel fresh and new so that's not too much like the old Blade or whatever IP you're reincarnating and you're just doing an extremely bad job of it? Like, what's going on here? Because whatever it is, it's not working. I've heard mixed reviews about people's reception of the actors they chose for the Fantastic Four. When it comes to their inclusion in the timeline, it's a little off because their story takes place well before modern day, like the Miss Marvels and the Marvels and them. Spider Man, we're waiting on the Spider Man movies to come back, but even then, they're saying they're going to merge the MCU and Sony universe, which is weird. Even when they made the Vultures, I guess they moved the Vulture and a few other characters from the MCU to the Sony universe. I still haven't completely wrapped my head around that and why they chose to do that. It's weird, bro. Like, what is y'all end picture? What's y'all end goal? What are you willing or trying to prioritize? What type of products are you in content are you trying to make that's still like top quality, fits the character as we know them, from longtime comic readers to movie watchers, whatever, both. As of right now, Blaze delayed indefinitely. It's done. At this point, I don't think we're gonna see it for a while again. And hopefully when this topic does come back up, they try to do it right. They have their priorities in check. I'll go and leave this rant and video here off, guys. What do y'all think is gonna happen in the future? Do you think we may see Blade in the nearer future than I think? We're just gonna be it's gonna be another 5-10 years because now he's part of James Gunn's DCU or DCEU. You know, is there another black actor that if they were to, get their ish together that could immediately fill that void and we wouldn't see a drop of quality either at all or it'd be very minimal? Yeah, I want to know what you guys think about that. But go ahead and leave me your comments, feedback, thoughts, anything like that, suggestions in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.